Why is it that if I'm a Christian, why is it I sin so much? And how do I stop sinning? What's the secret here? Because I'm missing a piece again. All right, and you're taking us through what the Apostle Paul said, so kind of review where we're at and then let's roll on.
Well, it's in Romans 7, and Romans 6, 7, and 8. Romans 6, he talks about what has taken place in our life and how that we can walk and live under grace. Romans 7, to me, is a picture of what happens when I put myself back up under the performance mentality of the law. Now, I can do that as a Christian, but I certainly lived under it when I was lost. And so he draws a picture. It doesn't matter. Law is the same on both sides of the cross, and so is the flesh. It's as wicked before the cross as it is after the cross. The difference after the cross is I don't have to live yielded to it. I don't have to do that. I have a choice I can make. And so he says, I love Paul. I just love him. It's like, hey, this guy knows me. He says, but if I do the very thing I do not want to do, I agree with the law, confessing that it's good. There's not a thing wrong with what God requires in our life. The problem is not with him, it's with us. We can't accomplish it. So now he says, no longer am I the one doing it, but sin. And there's those definite articles again, that old lawless, whatever it is, that still remains in us, which dwells in me. And then he says something in verse 18, for I know that nothing good dwells in me. And somebody says, see there, he has to be lost. Well, no, wait a minute. That is in my flesh. There's nothing good in my flesh, either side of the cross. Then he says, for the willing is present in me, but the doing of the good is not. And then he goes back and basically repeats himself. I was thinking about an illustration. I was drawn for a once-in-a-lifetime hunt when I was in New Mexico. It was an oryx hunt. Once in a lifetime now. It's on a military base, White Sands Missile Range. And so I was drawn. So I took two guys with me who knew no more than I did about hunting oryx. And we go out there. Well, first of all, you can't take a camera, you can't take a phone, obviously, because all the restrictions getting on a missile base. And so we went out, and we had no clue what we were doing. Long story short, we hunted the first day. I thought I was going to die. Out west, there's no perception of distance. You think, that's just 2 miles. No, it's 20. And so we walked and walked and walked and walked. I even shot at one, it was so far off, I just wanted to see how close I could get to it, but never, he looked up and wondered what that was. The next day we go out, and we're dead tired. We're dead tired, and so we're going to go home. We're going to go home. We ran into a game warden. He said, hey guys, don't go home yet. You have 45 more minutes of shooting time. Go down highway, I think it was 12. Okay, highway 12 on a military base is a little different than highway 12 someplace else. We started riding down that road, and all of a sudden, I was half asleep. Another fellow was driving my truck. He just slams on his brakes and said, there he is, there he is. I said, what? And he said, the oryx. And so I started to go across the road, because you're not supposed to shoot across a paved road. My guys from the car said, shoot him, shoot him. And I said, I'm on the wrong side of the road. They said, nobody's coming. So I leaned over the hood and took him down. Well, it was the only redemptive part of the story was a great shot. Well, we get him out. He would like to kill us. I was the youngest of all these other guys. And we couldn't get him into my truck. It was too heavy after we'd field rested. Here comes an officer of the base. He was, he'll help us. He says, no, I don't have a mic that'll reach. I asked him if he would call the base and tell him we were running late. I don't have a mic. Long story short, he says, well, I'll help you get the oryx in there. But here comes a guy that his mic does go to the base. And he tells him what's going on. The guy said, you shot you an oryx, didn't you? I said, I sure did. Where'd you shoot him? Right over there. Second time. Where did you shoot him? Right over there. I should have known by now. He asked me a third time, where did you shoot him? I said, right over there. He gets on his mic and says, we need a Game and Fish Commission officer. We have an illegal oryx that has been shot. I'm thinking, do what? He said, don't you know that's restricted? Don't you have a map? I said, man, we've been hunting for 2 days. We're dead tired. The game warden told us to come down here. Well, the game warden gets there. He comes up to me and he says, who's the shooter? And I told him, it was me. He said, you have anything to tell me? I said, I got a whole lot to tell you. He said, well, tell me how it all happened. I said, I got out of the truck, and then it dawned on me. I shot across a paved road, plus I also shot it in a restricted area, not knowing. And so immediately my flesh said, what he doesn't know won't hurt him. And so I told him I got out of the truck, walked across the road, and shot that, or lied like a dog. Well, long story short, he took me back to the base. All the game wardens are in there like I'd shot the president or something. And I mean, it was like, what has he done, 3 days go by. They haven't told me yet what the fine is. Could have been very much. Went on a staff retreat, didn't have to worry about it. On a Thursday, my wife left town to help her mom move. On a Friday morning, about 4 o'clock, God woke me up. And buddy, that's when I really realized what my flesh, how wicked it really was. I began to see what I had done as sin. And I had to deal with it. And it was like God said, you call that man. So I called him. And by the time I called him, he wasn't there. So he put me on hold for a whole day. He was out in the field. The next day, he calls me back. Well, by that time, I've worked myself out of it. I don't have to tell him. That was just a test. So he calls, and I said, I just wanted to know the number that I need to call to get my fine. And he said, is that all? I said, that's all. And boy, the Holy Spirit just like to kill me. So I had to call him back. And when I called him back, it put me on hold for 20 minutes. And finally he comes on. He says, Wayne, I thought we just talked. I said, yeah, we did. But you've got to understand who I am. I'm a believer. And I have my flesh to contend with every day of my life. And I want to tell you something. I lied to you like a dog. I shot across the road. Now, I didn't shoot from the car or from the road, but I did shoot across the road. I just wanted you to know that everything else I told you is true. And he said, Wayne, he starts laughing. Is that good or bad? And finally he says, Wayne, I knew you had shot across the road. I said, how'd you know that? He said, the shell casing was in the middle of the road. I'm thinking, oh gosh, I forgot all about that. But the amazing thing was how quickly our flesh responds. And that's what we've got to see as believers, whether it's on a religious camp or whether it's a rebellious. It's all rebellious, whether it even looks religious or not. The root of all sin is unbelief, period. And if belief started it all, belief's going to have to carry it all the way.